Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Truth Wanted. I am your host today, Objectively Dan, and this is the live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time, where we'd like to talk to you about what you believe and why. And every single week, I always have a special guest. This week is no different. This week, my guest joining me is Blatant Blatheist, a.k.a. Jerome. Jerome, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, I am excited that you're here because you're someone who also watches the show actually, which is always nice because there's some people who have no idea what this thing is about, and then there's some people who know what we're kind of doing here. So good to talk to you. And you are a YouTube content creator yourself. You make atheist videos, but also comedy videos. Sometimes both, sometimes one or the other, and all kinds of fun stuff. So yeah, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Of course. So your name is Blatant Blatheist. And I just want to explain for people who English isn't their first language, the pun here is that you are a black atheist. And so that it is supposed to be short for black atheist. There's a lot of international viewers. I just want to make sure they understand. So there is a trend, I've noticed this, with black content creators in the atheist space who do use black in their handle to indicate that identifier. And I think that that's really interesting because I'm a white guy in this space, but I don't say I'm the white atheist. You know what I mean? So there is, and I think it's an important signifier in the way that we talk about these issues because this space is filled with a lot of white dudes, right? And just not a lot of people of color. So what does that intersection of identity mean to you, and why did you choose to use that for your handle?
It's very important because in the black community, black is synonymous with Christian, and if you're not Christian, maybe you can be Muslim and still be considered family. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've told this before, but we had at least one host on here in the past who explicitly said that they were told from other people that they can't call themselves black if they don't call themselves Christian. And I just thought that was such an interesting thing to say. One, because Christianity was imposed on black people, right? Just historically as a fact. So black people were not historically Christians for a while.
The thing you have to look at though is the relationship between the black community and the black church. That was all the community outreach, that was security, that when we need money, those were the funds, you know what I mean? So the black community has always been connected with the black church.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing too, because I would say that there's a lot of progressive black church spaces that have been the champions of social justice, have been the champions for a lot of what we would identify as progressive movements that you don't see in white evangelical spaces, right? The worldview, despite claiming to have the same religion, are actually very different in how they approach those issues, right?
Yeah. I think it's because just the experiences that people have, period. If you look at your cis white male evangelical in America, their experience is going to be greatly different than anything I could ever imagine.
So you were a Christian before you were an atheist, correct? Yeah. So tell me about that experience. What was it like growing up as a Christian?
It was it wasn't something that was even questioned. Everybody I knew was Christian. Even the people because where I come from, it was a high crime area. I'm from St. Louis. So there'd be people that are doing the worst things you can imagine, but then you see them at church on Sunday, and it's like, hey, repent. I guess we're cool. Like, it's not even something that you question. But like, as I got older, it became less of a active thing for me. But I got really, really into it when I joined the military.
Interesting, because I hear the opposite experience from the military vets I know that are atheists. They said when they join is when they start to question. You might be the first I've heard that somebody actually got more into it. That's really interesting.
For a lot of people, when you go to the military, this is your first experience with others. Because a lot of us stay in our little bubble, but when you get into the military, you are showering, you're running, everything you do is with a group of people from areas that you've probably never been to. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But for me, like, I joined the military when I was 23 and I was surrounded by kids, so they had no effect on me.
Okay, yeah. I guess that would make sense, right? If you're kind of the older person in the group, you're probably not going to be as influenced from the younger guys. Yeah. Okay. So why did you get more religious as you joined the military?
I think it was because it was an easy way to draw what I called strength, or what I thought was strength, I guess you'd say. So like, when I'm trying to get a run, like, and I'm starting to wane out, I got a mile to go, and I'm just saying, come on, Jesus, get me through this. And when you actually do it, it's like, oh, wow, I should go to church. And church was the best part of basic training, because they had, like, it was a Pentecostal church. So, you know, Pentecostal has that music. So when you walk in there and you got your PTs on, because you don't have to wear a uniform today. It's grilled cheese and Jesus Sunday is what we call it.
Grilled cheese and Jesus Sunday. I like that.
Because Sundays were the only days we could have like grilled cheese and not just like super healthy food. So you go to church, you get your grilled cheese, and when you walk in, you hear Hosanna. It's like, oh, wow.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing here, and if I'm mischaracterizing you, like, let me know. But I think you're pointing out something interesting, which is that you weren't drawn to the theology. You weren't drawn to, I think the argument for Jesus rising from the dead is actually more true than I thought. It was the sense of community that you got, right? And there are benefits to being in that community. Like, would you say that's true?
Very much, very much. Because I mean, like, I say this on my channel all the time. The like hard thing about having any level of intelligence is you're always smart enough to fool yourself. So nobody had to talk me into it. I had already talked myself into this. Like, the Big Bang was okay. I believe in the Big Bang science. That makes sense. The science makes sense, but it was discovered by a Catholic priest. Haha.
Oh yeah.
Take that, atheist. Like, like, you can convince yourself of anything when you have just enough intelligence to do that. So
I think that's so true. It's definitely true in my experience to an extent, but true to a lot of people's experience, where it's like, it's a cultural thing, it's an accessible thing, it's a community thing. It has nothing to do with the philosophy or the logistics of how this Bible like works. You know what I mean? It has to do with the people, and I think, like, internationally, there are people that really question why do Americans have so much more of religiosity. It's because our common culture and how we meet each other and how we know each other are from these church groups, right? Like, it completely surrounds our social lives, and also just, you know, it becomes our base. It becomes the people we talk to when we need somebody. It's the people at church, right?
I mean, I look at religion the same way I look at like politics, and the same way I look at sports. Like, everything in America can be boiled down to sports. Who's your team? Who are you going for? Who do you support no matter what? If anybody says anything about your team, like, you know what I mean? Everything in America can boil down to, this is my team. I'm riding with my team.
Yeah. When I was riding with the Baptists, you know how much shit talk I heard about Methodists, about Mormons, about every other denomination. That it's the exact same shit you hear when NFL season's on, right? It's like, you talk shit about the other team. That is literally how Americans treat their religion. It's like a sports team. It is kind of crazy, right?
Okay,
so you you became more religious, but obviously you're on the show right now as the Blatant Atheist. So something in between then and now happened, right? So tell me what happened in that period of time.
What happened was when I actually got out of the Air Force, I was starting to get back into church because I just had my son. Like, I'm like, okay, I need to get right with the Lord. So I'm in church every Sunday. We're doing Bible studies. I'm reading the Bible by myself. And the more I read it, the more I was like, oh, okay, it's not making a lot of sense. So what I started doing was like going to YouTube and trying to get my confirmation bias filled. I needed that fulfillment. So I started looking at comedians, and like that's what got me into the comedy side of it, because that was what opened the door. I started looking at all these comedians, Ricky Gervais, stuff like that. Like, yeah, let's get it. And I wanted to see if I can listen to these jokes, laugh, and still remain Christian. Like that was the test for myself.
Okay, yeah.
And that grew into, okay, I want to watch some debates. Let's see some debates. Let's see some, what do we got here? And I ended up finding the ACA of all things.
Yeah.
And the more I watched, the more I started to see, okay, my side is not winning right now. This isn't good at all. Like I was really hoping. Funny. Yeah, like I was really like I clicked on it, like, yeah, let's see these atheists get trounced real quick. Yeah. Nope, not one call. It's like, okay, I might need to look into this more. And the more I looked into it, the more it unraveled. And then one day I was playing GTA, sitting in my living room, and just, I don't think I believe in God anymore. And I just went back to playing like nothing happened.
See, that's why you don't play GTA. You know, good Christian men wouldn't be playing GTA, Jerome.
Yeah. I was supposed to be playing Pokemon, but you know, it happens.
Well, that's satanic too. You know.
Is it?
Oh yeah. I mean, they're definitely demons, right?
Pikachu's so cute.
I know, but that's how they get you, you know. But anyway, yeah, that is interesting. Like you know, it's funny because I think atheist shows also kind of played a role a little bit. Like, but for me, it was just like a lot of YouTube in general, right? It's like there's so many people making like really dedicated content to these specific issues. Some of the issues I never even heard about, right, until they brought it up. And you know, you try to cross test it, you try and see Christian stuff answers, but for me, it was like every time I try to see the Christian answer or response to a lot of the problems pointed out, it didn't satisfy me. Right. I just couldn't figure it out. Couldn't make it work for myself. So at some point you kind of just have to drop it, right? Like, what do you do?
I wish I could have gotten there earlier, because I went in circles. Like I would just logic myself into the matrix and then I'd be satisfied.
How old were you when you finally decided you were a Christian?
28.
28, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good chunk of life lived before you figured that out. So do you regret, it sounds like you regret not doing it earlier, like kind of figuring this out, or?
Yeah, I have a lot of regrets with that. I feel like I could have been like a lot more open. I'd like, when I came out to my family as an atheist, that's when it was like, okay, I think I could be a comedian now. I've always wanted to be, but it's like, I can't be honest. But once you tell your mom that, hey, I don't believe in God, I can tell anybody anything now.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point, right? Because you're already going to kind of be a little bit of a social pariah. Like even in the most progressive spaces, I found that there's a lot of people that are still uncomfortable with that word atheist, right? Like they think
it's weird.
There's some that you have certain opinions or you view people in a certain way, and it doesn't matter where I'm at. Like there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like that, you know?
Yeah. Like I love going through the comments, like even on like atheist Facebook pages, there's always one comment on something funny. It's just like, atheists are bad people. And it's like, dude, who invited you? Why are you like,
who invited you?
Like you're calling me a bad person, but you just invited yourself into our space and insulted all of us. Make that make sense.
Yeah, and there's a lot of atheists that aren't very good at making this distinction, and for that I would condemn them. But I've always tried to align myself with people who are always clear on the point that whenever we talk about criticisms, particularly of Christianity, we're usually not saying Christians are bad people. We may say specific Christians are bad people, right? Like big names, but
I can name a few.
I don't think my parents, or I don't think my family or anybody I know that's Christian is a bad person. I do think they have bad ideas, though. I think I think we're always the first to make sure that, or at least we should be the first to make sure that we're making that distinction, because if we don't, then we run the risk of doing what other people do and demonize, right? I mean, a huge reason why more people aren't atheists is because they don't want to have that word attached, right? It's a scary word to attach yourself to, and it can be limiting in job opportunities. It can be limiting in romantic relationships. Like,
it was limiting to me, like beginning my channel. That's what, like, because even after I was an atheist, I didn't make my channel until last year.
So now that you're
terrified.
Really? So now that you are like kind of over that hump, what do you think? Do you just go whole hard into it? Do you ever have like second thoughts about, oh, I don't know if I should go this far with a joke or something like that?
No. Because like I know exactly where it's coming from. Like if all of my jokes come from my experiences, so
that
like
makes
if
sense.
I have to explain it, I can, but it should speak for itself.
So your comedy, what would you say is the central focus of your comedy?
For the channel, it's a lot of just atheist comedy. Making fun of the absurdity of the Bible is most of my channel. But like if I'm on stage, I've only been on stage twice. I love to say, when I'm on stage, I've done 2 open mics, but like it's just my life.
Do you plan on doing like more open mic stuff, or do you plan on just focusing on the channel, or both, or what?
Both. Yeah, definitely going to be both.
Cool.
Yeah, I want to keep my feet wet on that side, but the channel is pretty much the focus right now.
So tell me, so you came out as an adult, right? I mean, you were an adult when this happened. A lot of people, they have to navigate that relationship when they're younger between their family and stuff. What was it like navigating that relationship with your family and friends as an adult, like saying, hey, this is my identity? Were you quick to come out with it, or did it take you a while even just to admit to other people? Because like there was definitely a difference in time between when I figured out for myself and other people knew,
it was about like a 3 or 4 year gap between me admitting it to myself and telling anybody.
Wow. 3 or 4 year gap. That's a big gap. And what period of time was this, if you don't mind me asking?
This was, I believe, 2017 when I figured it out.
Okay.
And then like so like a 2 year gap. Like 2019 is when I told everybody.
Okay. Yeah. And
the only reason I told anybody is because it's like, okay, I really want to do this channel. I want to be a comedian. I have to tell my mom. And I was living in Korea at the time. She's back home in the mainland. I'm in Hawaii, so I always say mainland. So she was in the States. I was in Korea, so I had to FaceTime my mom and like, Mom, you might want to sit down for this. Like I was building it up. Like I was terrified to even say, like, you might want to sit down. And I just told her, I don't believe in God anymore. I'm an atheist. And she like looked back through the phone and was like, boy, I thought you was going to tell me something serious. Don't scare me like that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That works.
That's funny how it can go both ways. It can be like, oh, this is the biggest deal in the world, or no, I don't really care. So that's good that she didn't really care. But it is kind of dismissive at the same time too, though. If it's like, it's obviously a big deal for you, if somebody said, oh, I don't care, like, I don't know, like that would kind of.
I mean, like her thing was, I'll pray for you.
Okay.
Hopefully one day. And I was like, yeah, okay, like you're free to do that. But I'm an atheist. I just wanted you to know. And then like literally I got off the phone with her and I posted an atheist meme on Facebook and was like, hey, quick update. I don't believe in God. I'll see y'all later. And just logged off.
Quick update. God's not real. Okay, bye. Peace out.
Deuces.
Man, that's funny.
That's all I got.
That's really funny. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story. And thanks again for being on the show. I think it's time we talk to some other people because this is a call-in show. What do you think, Jerome?
Let's get it.
All right, cool. Let's get it. Before we do that, doing things, I forgot to mention this in the announcement because I didn't have the script up yet. But just to let you guys know, Truth Wanted is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And if you want to talk to this program, you can do it. You can call in right now. We're about to take calls. It's 512-991-9242, or you can do it through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. And we would love to talk to you. Both Jerome and I will talk to you and take your calls. Doesn't have to be about Christianity. It could be about aliens, Bigfoot, whether Wi-Fi causes cancer. I mean, you know, if you want to talk about that, we totally can. So please give us a call and talk to us. And now, before we get to our calls, I also have to thank the patron of the week, because every single week we always give a shout out to one patron that donates on patreon.com/truthwanted. And we're going to put this week's patron on the screen right now. This week's patron of the week is going to be Pink Gloom. Thank you so much, Pink Gloom, for donating. And thank you to everybody that donates on that Patreon. You guys rock. You help make this show happen every single week. Excuse me. So thanks again for that. And now I think it's time to take some calls. You ready, Jerome?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we got a couple of interesting calls here. Gosh, all of these calls are really good. I want to talk to Doug first. Let's talk to Doug, who wants to talk to us from Canada. Doug, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hi, how are you, Dan? Blatant Atheist. How's your Friday?
Friday is doing all right, Doug. How can we help you?
Okay, so I'll have to make this case. I want to tell you the absolute truth, that Planned Parenthood is a deliberate conspiracy by the Democrats to kill all black children.
Man, that's quite a truth you're dropping, Doug. A truth that I don't believe. But you're free to make your case.
I know you don't.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, here's a brief history lesson. Planned Parenthood was created by Margaret Sanger, who was a known racist. She hated black people, and she created that organization for the sole purpose of doing abortions to eliminate the black race. And that is why Planned Parenthood centers are always in black neighborhoods. So the repeal of Roe versus Wade was actually a good thing to save the lives of our people, because I am black.
That was a large leap you just did there, brother.
It's not.
Yeah. So
it's the reality.
Let's say that you're right. Let's say that Margaret Sanger is a black person. No, sorry, you didn't say she was black. You said that she hated black people. You didn't say she was black. Excuse me. Let's say Margaret Sanger hates black people, right? This is the talking point that's out there. And let's say she exclusively started Planned Parenthood to exterminate black people. Why would she do that?
That's correct.
Through an abortion clinic? Because anybody can go to Planned Parenthood, right?
It's the best way to eliminate us. The best way to eliminate us in the womb.
Okay, but nobody. But Planned Parenthood does. But Planned Parenthood does not go to families and say you need to come to us to get an abortion, right? Like it.
Yeah, but they place themselves in black neighborhoods and they make it very cheap for us to go there.
Okay,
if
but
those Catholic Planned Parenthood centers are not in white neighborhoods, when was the last time you saw a Planned Parenthood center in Beverly Hills, my friend? When was the last time?
I've never been to Beverly Hills, so I don't know. I can, I'm not talking. First of all, I actually disagree. I don't think Planned Parenthood is exclusively in black neighborhoods. But besides that point,
it's not.
Not even talking about that. Not even talking about that right now. Okay, people make the voluntary decision to go to Planned Parenthood themselves. Most of the time, actually, to the chagrin of their friends and family. Sometimes, if they're open about it. But there is not a single hospital on earth, unless it's in the extreme circumstances of a birth may being threatening to the life of somebody, or other complications. Nobody is actually saying you have to get an abortion. Like it almost never happens. Right? It only happens again in very extreme circumstances. How do I know that? You asking me how do I know that?
Yes, Mr. Dan.
You understand? First of all, I live in this country, Doug, and also I've been to a hospital, and there's a doctor that runs this show. Okay, it is not in the doctor's training for them to say, "Oh yes, you're a black person, you need to go to Planned Parenthood." Like that's not happening. Like, what do you mean? How do I know that?
Well,
I want to know. Is it John?
Dan,
is it John?
I'm telling you the truth. I'm sorry you don't understand.
You tell me the truth.
What I want to know is how
true.
you know. You asked Dan how he knows that it's not happening. I want to know how you know that it is happening.
We should approach it at that angle, Doug. How do you know that this is happening? Please.
How do I know?
Yes.
I'll tell you. Because I watched the truth from conservative websites. You should check them out. They tell the truth rather than the bullshit that you're being fed on CNN.
Well,
I don't watch CNN.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So conservative news websites are telling you that doctors are making black people go to Planned Parenthood to get abortions.
The Democrats keep passing laws to keep us black people from advancing and getting good jobs, so that we're in poverty. And so when a black girl gets pregnant, she has no choice but to go to Planned Parenthood. And Planned Parenthood makes it very cheap, easy to go there because they're trying to systematically erasing us. And it is happening right under your nose, gentlemen.
It's amazing.
Doug, we were both born, though. We are both black and we're both born. And I don't know about you, but I don't come from a rich family. So my mom made do with me. I'm one of 5 kids that my mom raised alone, and Planned Parenthood wasn't part of the plan. Parenthood was the plan, apparently. So my question again is, how do you know this is happening other than one source of information saying it?
Sources, my friend, from the conservative website, they all say the same thing. You should look them up.
Of course they do. That's
the conservative websites, Jerome. They know what's happening. Not the people who work in healthcare every day and are actually administering, the result of these policies every day. Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you this, Doug. I don't think somebody should find themselves. It's amazing how in some ways I actually agree with you, in some ways I don't. Right? I do think there's actually systematic forces that make abortion the most economic, like the option that makes the most economic sense for a lot of families every day in this country. Every day. I think that's absolutely true. The difference, in my opinion, is that I don't think they're specifically targeting black people and making them get abortions. I think it is because we don't actually have a state that supports people in ways to where birth control isn't always their first option. And that can be because of lack of sex education. That can be because of lack of resources. I mean, there's tons of reasons there, but Planned Parenthood is serving families of all colors and creeds, right? Like the fact that it happens more proportionally to black people in this country, in other words, there's more black people getting abortions in this country, is not the result of systematic targeting from a system. It's more the result of these people in the first place are not getting these resources equally from other people, right? Like, and again, this is my interpretation of events. I think a lot of other people would agree with me. But if I were to present this to you and say, look, this is actually the other way around. This is actually because black people in the first place aren't getting the same amount of institutional resources in the same way that other people of color are, or other people in the country are. I mean, what would be your response to that? How could you refute something?
Why don't you listen to what I'm saying? The Democrats are systematically making sure we don't get this stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, abortion should be banned. Because it's murder, plain and simple. White, black, Asian people.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what I wanted to get to that.
Well, I'm sorry. I want you to speak to on this too, Jerome. Yeah. But listen, do you understand, Doug, that it was the Republican Party in this country that was trying to ban abortions, not Democrats?
Oh no, that's what he wants. Because abortion is murder.
But okay, that makes sense. But if Democrats are actually wanting to make this happen, if Democrats actually want to eliminate people from doing this, why do they do so much to also help prevent people from getting abortions in the first place, right? Like Democrats are also trying to equalize resources for people for every citizen in this country too, right? Like there's also policies that would directly contradict the aims and goals of eliminating black people, right?
Now, I'm just going to say it's not Democrats that coined the phrase welfare queens.
Yeah.
The people that are giving the welfare and are trying to make I can't say the word, trying to make bills
Yeah.
that actually help people in the inner city, not just black people, but people who are traditionally from the inner cities. Those are typically Democrats. And the people that are trying to keep us at a certain level that make these abortions almost a necessity for some people, that's not the Democrats. But the thing that you said about like Roe being repealed is a good thing. Like, I don't see how you make that leap. Like, so you're telling me that a woman doesn't get the right to choose because a woman that's been dead for 100 years was racist? That doesn't make sense.
You keep saying that a baby is using the woman's body without his consent, but you're also saying that it's a woman's body. But the woman's body, then how can the baby be using her body against her consent if it is her body? You're the ones who are being contradictory.
That's interesting, Doug, because that's a completely different thing that we weren't even talking about.
You just jumped right over my question there, friend.
Do you have any response to what Jerome said?
I don't look. Abortion should be banned. Point final.
So
for all people.
Doug, do you have any response to what Jerome said? Doug, were you listening? Were you listening to what Jerome said?
Here's my response. The Democrats have made it so easy for black people to get abortions, so we can wipe each other out. That's why they also keep us poor, so we can kill each other. And hence, that's the reason why Black Lives Matter runs the organization.
What this is telling me is that you didn't listen to what Jerome said. So why should we have a conversation with you if you're not going to listen to what we're saying?
Pardon me?
Well, why should I maybe I should just hang up the call right now? Because if you want to have a conversation with us, that's what we're interested in. But if you're not interested in having a conversation with us, there's really no point to this conversation. Only for us to point out that how ridiculous it is. So, talk to us, Doug. Do you want to talk to us, or do you want to keep, stalling out your points?
I want to talk to you.
Okay, Jerome, would you mind repeating yourself again, and giving your point again to Doug?
So my question was, how does Roe being repealed become a good thing? Women no longer get the right to choose. There's government entities, especially the party that says small government, small government, small government. Now they are literally coming into people's homes and telling them that they will be arrested because they chose how to live their lives. And that's a good thing because Margaret Sanger was racist. I don't understand the connection. Could you explain that for me?
Okay, I'm going to explain it to you. Inside a pregnant woman is a human being, a human life that has to be protected. As soon as the sperm meets the egg, it's alive, and you can't kill it. It's no different than killing a full-grown person right in front of you.
It is. It's very different.
If you want to kill your baby, you have to protect it. It's because it's murder, plain and simple. That's why it's a good thing that Roe versus Wade has been repealed. I just answered your question.
I don't think you did, actually. He's asking. You pointed out Margaret Sanger and her allegedly racist opinions. He's asking what does that have to do with anything? Any other point that you're making here? Let's say that you're completely right. Let's say Margaret Sanger was a Nazi. So what? What does that have to do with Planned Parenthood or anything that we're talking about today?
If a Nazi starts an organization about abortion, what do you think that's for?
To give people
what
abortions.
Does that have to do to, here's the thing. Here's what I want you to ask yourself. I'm an American. I'm a Black American. The history of America does not shine very well. Like there's not a lot of sheen on America from my point of view, just looking at the history of it. But I can still look at it now and say, okay, we're moving in the right direction. That's not what it is now. Even though there's still a lot, we have a long way to go, but that's not what it is now, right? So looking at the beginning of Planned Parenthood, what does that have to do with now? Margaret Sanger's dead. I don't know if you know that.
Planned Parenthood and abortion still exist. her work is continuing. Gentlemen, why can't you see the problem with abortion? Why can't you see it as murder? It's murder of innocent babies in the womb. Why can't
because
you see
I disagree. Because I disagree.
Give me a reason why you disagree. Give me a reason why you disagree. Give me one good reason.
Fetuses are not babies, first of all. Those are two different things, right? Listen, I'm a vegan, okay? I don't eat animals that I consider to be sentient because if they have a nervous system, they can probably process pain, okay? And they can, feel a sense of conscious pain. Fetuses don't have that. Fetuses don't have a developed nervous system. They don't have a brain that's developed enough to understand that. From my perspective, from a scientific point of view, it doesn't make sense for, at least if we're talking about, fetus, if we're talking about 6-week-old being to actually have any kind of conscious decision making or any kind of conscious sense of feeling. So when we're doing this process of abortion, we're not actually hurting something that's capable of feeling hurt, right? There's nothing happening there. But if we make legislation that says, no, actually, this is something that we have to protect, that can sometimes be to the detriment of people who, quite frankly, shouldn't be having kids or even just don't want kids. Because you'd have to make the case for me, Doug. I don't think most 14-year-olds should be having kids, right? Some of them really want to, and maybe they got the support for it, and maybe that's a thing. But for 99% of them, I don't think they should be. I don't think 13-year-olds should be having kids. I don't think 15-year-olds should be having kids. But
I don't think a 10-year-old victim in Ohio should be forced to give birth.
But that's what's happening with the current legislation, right? Is that they're being, as Jerome put it, forced to be giving birth. And I don't think that should happen, especially if we're just talking about a fetus. Like, I don't think they should have the same consideration as human beings. And that's my answer.
I think the biggest issue I have with it, Doug, hold on, Doug. I think the biggest issue that we're having right now, the disconnect, is you're not recognizing that that woman is a human being. That woman that's carrying that fetus, that's a person. What happens with her body should be her choice. That's what life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness really means, right? It's her choice, her body, her choice. That should be the end of the conversation. Even if you consider it murder, if I consider it not murder, it's not up to me and you. It's up to the person who's carrying the fetus. You can't walk into a hospital when somebody has a parasite on them and say, don't take that parasite off. That's murder. You're supporting its life. No, I don't want to.
Any response, Doug?
It's not up to the woman. It's not up to the woman. It's a living being inside the person.
Why do you think a fetus? Do you think a fetus experiences conscious suffering?
Yes, I do.
With what? How?
If a baby is hungry,
I'm not talking about a baby.
Saying, feed me.
No, we're not talking about a baby. We're talking about a fetus.
You don't feed a fetus. A fetus doesn't cry and whine, and you don't feed it, right? That doesn't happen with fetuses, right? You can agree with me with that?
It's inside of there. It feels something.
Okay. How does it feel?
And it will become more good. Look, your argument about bodily autonomy is false. This is about women trying to escape responsibility.
No, Doug, this is very, very simple.
Doug,
listen to me, Doug. If you cut off my arm, I'm going to feel that, right? Why? How am I going to feel that?
Because it's a part of your arm.
Okay, but what is making me feel that? What system is making me feel that? Because you understand there's people that exist that actually don't feel pain, right? That their integumentary systems are don't allow them to have the feeling of pain, right? Or a limited sense of pain. So what is the system that makes me feel pain?
Your nervous system, your nerves.
Your nervous system. Does a fetus have a nervous system?
It will.
It will, but does it?
It will, and it probably does.
It will, but does it? Does it, Doug?
It will.
It will, but does it?
It will. That's all that matters.
If I get pulled over today and the cop says license and registration, and I say I don't have a registration or a license, but I will, should he let me go?
That doesn't. Your two analogies do not make sense. You're talking about killing a baby.
Look, if it doesn't have a complete nervous system, it doesn't have a capacity to feel, are we causing any suffering?
All that matters.
You don't answer my question, Doug.
I don't know why you guys. I don't know why you guys are in favor of abortion, you idiots. If your mother had aborted you, you would be dead right now. You wouldn't be able to argue with me.
That's true, Doug. That's true. If I was aborted, I wouldn't be here. So what?
I wouldn't know about
against
it,
something that could have killed you, especially you, Atheist, because the aborting don't want us alive. Us black people, they don't want us alive.
Doug, look, if I was aborted, I wouldn't be here. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that at the time of abortion, I would be feeling a conscious torment or suffering, right? This doesn't happen. Now, look, we're out of time for this call. We really got to move on. But I would encourage you to look at the development of the fetus from the beginning of inception, when the sperm meets the egg, to the end of the birth process, right? And you figure out at which point is it going to feel conscious suffering. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in the first couple weeks. It's just not there. It's not developed enough. And you tell me if I'm wrong. You can point to me at which period of time they do, and you tell me when it's wrong, and we can talk about that. But if it doesn't experience suffering, we're not actually causing another being any harm, right? Because I don't see how we would. But anyway, that's all the time I got for this call, and it looks like we got some other people that want to talk to us. So before we do that, we want to give a quick promo and talk about some of the other shows that we got here. So check it out.
And so, are there any circumstances where polyandry, where multiple husbands might be allowed or mentioned in Islam?
0. You will be stoned to death if you dare.
Man, the Book of Revelations is metalist. I'd like to see a beast with 7 heads, upon its head 7 crowns, and its mouth the word blasphemy. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I want to meet this, like, the whore of Babylon. She seems cool.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of pushing your religious bigotry on students that are young and impressionable, how about you focus on educating them and getting them to graduate high school and actually give them resources for college and careers like you said you would? How about that?
There's no way to get around this now. You've all been already discussing this, but I have to come out to all of you and say that I am actually trans Jesus. Like I am the second coming of trans Jesus.
25,000 people, including over 10,000 children, starve to death every single day. That's more than 1,000 people an hour. In the time it's taken us to do this show, over 1,000 people have starved to death. If there's a God, what's up with that?
And we are back to the program. I'm back here with Jerome. Jerome, what'd you think of that last call?
Wow.
Yeah?
Just wow. Like, what I don't get is like how people can make those arguments, but like just look at getting pregnant. Mm-hmm. If this is the case you're making, like, think about all those sad millions of sperm that died because only one was chosen. Mm-hmm. I think sex should be just off the table from now on because we have to protect those potential lives because that sperm could be a life one day.
Yeah. And I don't know, the takeaway for me was just like the narrative that it targets Black people is,
I think that was just the buy-in. Yeah, that was the buy-in.
That's the buy-in. It's like, I feel like you could do more if you wanted to target Black people, right? Like, I just feel like if that's the plan, the policies for that are pretty weak. Like, I just think you can do more.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
Quite a bit,
right? Like, but obviously, I mean, in the past, it's been proportionally disrespected for people of lower incomes, right? Yeah. And Black people in this country proportionally have lower income than other racial groups, and so there is that connection there. Now, actually, I've seen some recent stuff that suggests that line isn't actually as clear cut. That there's actually people in middle income higher families that are getting more abortions than what was previously thought, which is interesting. But like, I think that's where that stereotype comes from, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, this group of people who has already been disenfranchised historically is going to this abortion clinics. They must be targeted for this. And it's just like, well, I think it's kind of the other way around. Like, you know,
like anyway. It annoys me that people like take away like our, like even Black people, we take away our own humanity when you just assume that somebody's making a choice for us.
Yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right. It is dehumanizing, isn't it?
Yeah, very.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we got some other calls that are interesting. So I think we should talk to some more people. Let's talk to, man, we got some good ones. I want to talk to Don, who's calling in from Washington State. Don, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Oh, my God. That is so crazy. I was going, pick me so I can go to bed. Hey, guys. I know. You know, I honestly don't know who I'm talking to.
Well, you got Objectively Dan here and Jerome, a.k.a. Blatant Blatheist, on the line with you.
Cool. Dan, I'm a little familiar with you. And I've been following the atheist experience for, 10 years. And, hats off to all your predecessors, amazing people. However, I guess my question, if I have a question, is why not take a harder line on how you really, truly feel? It seems so fuzzy-wuzzy to me that you guys aren't, am I making any sense?
Well, Don, you just said that you weren't familiar with me, or you're somewhat familiar with me, but you're saying that I don't take a hard enough stance. So I'm wondering, do you actually know my stance on things?
Maybe I don't, Dan.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've seen you. But I do know. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what are you referring to as the stance? Stance as far as
Well, it's kind of like all over the damn place for me. Okay, let me give you a little background. I'm 70 years old. I've lived an amazing life. I wish I could do the Vulcan melt on your mind and you could go, wow, or whatever. But anyway, it's like all of the hosts are always saying that's not exactly what we're saying. What we're saying is this. It's like you either do or you don't. And I don't. And I mean, I'm very firm about how I am about it. You know, I don't even know how you can even pretend that there might be.
Okay. So,
I'm guessing we're talking about theism right now.
Yeah, let me try to respond here. Well, first off, Jerome's not a volunteer with the. I mean, he's volunteering right now because he's on the show, but he's not a typical volunteer of the ACA. All of the ACA hosts that you see are volunteers. Okay, we're not paid employees by the ACA. Most people that do stuff for the ACA are volunteers, which means the ACA is not telling us, oh, here's a script that you should read from. Here's how we think you should respond to things. If anything. I get to say whatever the fuck I want for the most part, which is pretty awesome. So, like, you know, I can't speak to what other hosts say or don't say because they're their own people. Like, right. Everybody's their own person. So, like, if you have a specific criticism of what a specific host has said, I'd be willing to hear it. But this is pretty vague. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, you know, this might surprise you, Don. But Don, this might surprise you. I actually disagree. Don, please, let me finish here. It might surprise you, but I actually disagree with a lot of other hosts' take on things. And you know what? They disagree with me too on some things. Like, we all have different points of view. We're not a monolith. In fact, I think that's what makes us an advantage here. We don't really have a byline other than we're trying to support, critical thinking and humanism and the whole 9 yards with our mission statement. But like, we're all different people with different takes. If you don't like how one of us goes on something, I suggest that you talk specifically about what a specific host has said in their specific stance, because otherwise this kind of vague sort of criticism, I don't think I can really take that and say, you know what, I'm going to reflect on this and think if I can change it differently, because I don't know what you're talking about, man. I really don't.
Okay. All right, partner. What I'm trying to say is that the first time I ever listened to the Atheist Experience, I thought, oh shit, I'm going to pack my bags and go to Austin, and where I will be accepted. But then the more and more and more I listened and whatnot, and then it got into, oh, gee whiz, absolutely complicated to me with the philosophy and the first premise and blah, 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 blah. And I thought, wait a minute, this show is about separating religion from government. This show is about what do you believe and why. And it seems to be getting farther off the track. And I'm going like, wait a minute, guys. What's all this fuzzy, wuzzy stuff? Either you are or you aren't. It doesn't seem to be affirmative.
Are or aren't what, Don? Are or aren't what?
You either believe in a God or you don't.
Nobody, I promise you, Don, I promise you, no host. First of all, this isn't the Atheist Experience, so I don't know why you're calling this show a complaint. I'm not a host of the Atheist Experience. I host on there sometimes, but I'm not a regular host at the moment or whatever. But like, look, I guarantee you, I'll make you this promise, Don. There is no concurrent volunteer at the atheist community of Austin right now that believes in God. That's a promise I can make you. I can guarantee that to you, Don. So I have no idea where your criticism is coming from, right? These issues, they are complicated sometimes. They are. We are dealing as a secular minority in a religious majority in this country. We have to deal with issues like separation of church and state. We have to, in other words, work with other people and live with other people. And sometimes that means we can't just say, oh, well, you have to believe what I think or else I can't work with you, period. That's just not how the real world works. The rest of us have to get along with Christian cohorts, Muslim cohorts, and other people and figure out how to live in that world. Because right now we don't live in an atheist world. We live in a religious world. So we can make the steps possible to climb up and make ourselves more respectable to the world, have more of an influence and an opinion in the world. But right now we have to work with people in order to live our best lives. Because I'm not going to see an atheist world in my lifetime. I'm not. It's just that's statistically just not going to happen. And until that does, we have to learn to live in the world that we do and meet people where they're at. Because Don, if somebody came up to me and just said, hey, you're stupid because you believe in God, I don't give a shit what they're going to say because they're assholes. Like that's just how it is, you know?
Dan, you made a lot of sense there, and I totally understand. But at the same time, there's things that don't make sense to me. And I am open-minded. I'm trying to figure it out. Like I said, I'm pushing 70, and there's so much going on right now that it's like, how do you make sense of it all?
Here's what you do, Don. You listen, you watch Truth Wanted. Okay, we do this live every week at 7 p.m. Central. You know what? You watch this show more. That's how you do it. Okay? No, but seriously, I mean, like, if all the different hosts of these shows, like, we're actually very different in how we do things. So the people have different takes. I mean, I would try to listen to a lot of different people and get their perspectives and see what they have to say. Because again, I'm speaking generally here, but like we generally all do have different takes on how to approach situations. Sometimes that comes into conflict with each other, and so you have to make up your own mind and use those critical thinking skills and see who you agree with. And that's all I can offer to you, Don. But right now we do have to move on and take some other callers. So
I believe that, but at the same time, my mind tells me, this is absolutely insanity. That
again, I don't know what you're talking about. Again, we've had a lot of time to talk with you, but I do have to talk to some more callers. So I suggest if you do want to talk to me again specifically, or any of the other hosts, Don, I appreciate it. Here's my criticism for you. Okay, constructive criticism. I want you to be more specific in your complaints. Honestly, seriously, I would rather engage with you if you have a specific stance that you disagree with us on, and want to talk about the merits of that stance. I'm all for that. But right now, I've talked to you for about 7 minutes now, and I still don't know what you're talking about. And also, you're complaining about Atheist Experience, which isn't this show. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but it is what it is. Jerome, I'm sorry you didn't have much input in that call, but I don't think you could have. So
nah.
It is what
I
it
didn't have
is.
much for that. I like Don though. Don's a sweetheart. I like Don.
Don's a nice guy. I think he means well. I just need to know what he's talking about. I can't help him otherwise. But real quickly,
I was trying to help him.
I know. I was too. Trying our best here, but I got a show to run, baby. We got people to talk to. So, if you want to become a member of this particular program, again, not of Atheist Experience or any of the other shows, Truth Wanted, because that's what you're watching, you can do that. You get emojis in the chat, and your name gets highlighted in the chat as well, and you also get immune to chat timeouts. You can do that all for as 99 cents per month. Just hit that join button that you see if you're watching this on YouTube, and we would love it if you did that. And also, another way you can support the show real quick, if you shop on Amazon, you can support the ACA at no additional cost to you. So if you're lazy and you still want to support us, you totally can. Sorry, I'm not calling people who don't donate lazy. I'm just making a joke. But you can just visit tiny.cc/AmazonSmileACA, and you can designate the Atheist Community of Austin as your selected charity. And a portion of that purchase will be donated directly to the ACA. So it's money that would otherwise go to Amazon that just goes to us. So that's one way you can support us. So definitely check that out if you haven't considered doing that. We would love it if you could. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take some more people. We got a lot of people who want to talk to us. I hope we can talk to everybody today, but we got a lot of people who are calling in. So let's see. Okay, so I think it's fair that we take this next person. Who is skipping the line a bit, but if you've noticed, folks, we have a specific, if you're watching the video of this, okay, we have a very specific background right now, and it is an ant that's on Mars, okay? And this is because and this is kind of a joke, I'm not insulting the caller that has brought this up, but we do have a caller that has a belief that that there are bug creatures on Mars. I think, well, insectoid creatures, maybe they would say, and it's just, and I'm only putting it out here because it's outlandish. I'm not insulting the intelligence or anybody that calls in who believes that. And I think they're calling in and wants to talk to us right now. This is Daniel calling in from Canada, who again was previously made the call that inspired this post. So Daniel, I hope you can take our background in good humor. How are you doing, Daniel?
Oh, I'm doing great, thanks.
Okay, great. Real talk. What do you think about our background? Is it good or not? Because I think it's kind of cool, but.
I just want to know, why didn't you use the background from the video I sent you from this guy, Roger in Kansas City, who made that video of the...
Daniel, I have not seen this video. I have looked in the comment section, did not find it. Here's the thing. I advertise the email that you can email me directly at the end of every single show. So if you send it to the email address, I can watch it. Otherwise, I've tried to look for this thing, and I can't see it. What I have found in the meantime, though, is interesting. I have found a couple different news articles, one that I actually have pulled up from earlier, in case you did call in, someone from Amanda Kuzer from CNET, who is talking about a professor emeritus from Ohio University, who originally pointed out these images from Mars and claimed that they were evidence of kinds of insect-like beings on Mars. And I'm wondering if you know what I'm talking about. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't heard about that. I'll look into it.
Yeah. So this is the name of the person is named William Romiser from Ohio University. He's an entomologist, and I think he is the origin of probably the pictures you're seeing in this YouTube video. Again, I haven't actually watched it yet, but he is the guy that is pointing out and saying, hey, these are insect-like beings on Mars here, and like goes into detail with some of these pictures. So that's my recommendation to you. Hopefully you can rewatch the video and catch that information and look that up. But that's what I've found.
Yeah. But I just wanted to say one thing though, that I kind of made it that sound that you had to use Photoshop to look at these images, and you don't. On that billion pixel picture, you can see it with your naked eye. You don't need to do anything to the picture. You just need to use a magnifying glass that kind of helps and blow up the picture as big as you can. But
well, before you move on to another point, let me just also point out, I think I have found the origins of these images. And if I have found the origins of these images, I don't know whether entomologist William Romiser actually did any kind of photo manipulation himself. If he didn't, that would be really interesting. I do see on the images pointed here, there's like lines and stuff kind of pointing and stuff. So, disregarding that, just talking about the actual images, that would be a conversation to have. And then we could maybe talk about pareidolia and all this other stuff. But I'm assuming you don't have to actually look through Photoshop to actually view these images for data and stuff like that, right? So there you go. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, and I just don't see. I'm sort of surprised by the people's reaction. Like, why is it such a big deal to believe in this? Like, it's like we're not talking supernatural or anything. I believe that they come from the same natural universe that we come from. I don't think there's anything extraordinary about this belief.
There is something extraordinary about this belief, and I'll tell you what it is. Well, it's twofold, really, maybe even threefold. One is that there is not just life, but like very large extant life on a planet, which is something that is completely unprecedented to the history of space exploration. I mean, that's huge. That's a big deal. I don't know how you could say that's not a big deal. That is a big deal if we found that to be true.
No.
But this is twofold though, Daniel. The other thing is, is that you are also making the claim that by pointing this out, NASA not only knows about this, but is lying about it. So the public administration of the United States that explores space and that our taxpayer money go to is not only lying to the citizens of the US, but lying to the world about a scientific discovery that would literally change everything, right? That would completely change the way we do not only space exploration, but probably like diplomacy. Like it would change a lot. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. A big claim like this does require scrutiny and does require a lot of evidence. I mean, I think you would agree with that.
Extraordinary claims, extraordinary evidence type thing.
100.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. What I meant was, just to believe that life exists. I mean, it's incredible. It's such an incredibly large universe. I just find it very hard to believe that it didn't happen elsewhere and in a long time before us. And
I mean, I would not say that I don't think that it's not happening anywhere, because, like you said, the universe is bigger than we can imagine, right? So I'm almost sure. I can't be sure because I don't have the evidence, but I'm almost sure that there's life somewhere else. But I'm not looking in our backyard for it because we've seen it and we haven't seen the evidence.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel, I don't know how much you've watched of this show, but I have specifically said, and other people that have hosted, we're very candid about the fact that there could definitely be life on other planets. But there's very specific reasons why we don't think Mars in particular supports life. And that's because we know, first of all, a lot more about Mars than we do about most planets, like in the known universe, right? And life, especially life of the kind that you're describing, would be incredibly extraordinary to any of the observations that we've made. Right now, there is no kind of life, especially the size and scope of what you're describing, could be supported in that way by what we know about Mars's atmosphere and Mars's general landscape. It would have to be something completely unfamiliar and completely unknown to us in biology.
Like finding bacteria on Mars would be mind blowing.
Yeah, that in itself would be crazy. Let alone fully grown bug creatures, whatever they are. I mean, I don't know what you use for it. But.
Yeah, I don't know what they are. I'm just that's what they look like. But you know, don't they say that same thing about like you go to the deepest depths of our oceans, and you wouldn't think there could be possibly life down there. It's the weight of the water and stuff in the oceans. And yet scientists, when they go to the deepest, they send submarines down to the deepest level. They find life. They find life in the strangest spots. They find life in the coldest regions of the planet.
But the elements of life are still there, though.
It's true. In the origins of oceanography, it was thought that life could not exist. Daniel, let me please.
I don't know the physiology of these whatever these are. I don't know what they are. We have no idea what it is. And I think they live underground for another thing. I think they live underground. And I think we don't know what the environment underground is.
But Daniel, the physiology of undersea life, specifically at extremely high pressure environments, you do see those organisms adapt to those environments and fill out an ecological niche. And not only that, they still live in an ecosystem, right? So
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Just one singular form of life on a planet, that actually doesn't make sense. Naturally, that doesn't make sense. That would be more supernatural than anything. Because what we know about life and its development is that there has to be some diversity that comes about, especially for an organism of that size. It has to be eating something. It has to be mating with other life. So unless there's other life underground that we still haven't seen, and for some reason these ant creatures or whatever, they go to the surface, I mean, that's one thing, but we haven't demonstrated that. All we know is that we have maybe some pictures that maybe look like bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because Daniel, that's what I was actually going to chime in and say. Be careful with those leaps, because even if you do have, like, if these pictures are evidence, if they turn out to be evidence, you don't want to make leaps and bounds espousing on where they live, and now you're pretty much making up stuff at that point.
It's true.
I'm just conjecture. Yes, I'm not claiming that I know. I'm just saying what I think, what it looks like.
I'm just saying, be careful.
I agree. I'm not a scientist. No one has to care what I say. You know, I'm just nobody here in Canada. You know, nobody has to get upset or anything, right? But another thing about why NASA may keep it secret is because it could open up a Pandora's box of others. Relations to the whole UFO issue and stuff that's been going on the last 60, 70 years.
My question is, like,
open up a whole...
if the images in question originate from NASA's website, they're not doing a very good job of keeping this a secret, wouldn't you say?
No, but they
like
put
if it was something this huge.
They obfuscate the picture by putting that orange pink haze over everything, and I think that's bullshit. That orange pinky haze.
No, like, but you said, wait. I'm sorry, Jerome. I'm so sorry, Jerome. I keep interrupting you, but I have to say this because Daniel, you said this last time that there's an orange haze on Mars that isn't there. You know, you can see Mars right now, right? You can go outside and look at it. It's orange.
I was screaming this at the screen 2 weeks ago. Like, I was looking at my phone screaming this 2 weeks ago, but you can go outside.
Not only that, Daniel, but there's other space organizations. Like, there's other people that are looking at Mars. NASA is not the only space entity that exists. And they also can show you pictures of Mars. Yeah, so like, are you have to expand this conspiracy by saying that?
Yeah, is it a global conspiracy?
There's multiple organizations that are all saying Mars, which the planet that we can see outside right now isn't actually the color that we see it is.
No, I didn't say that. I'm not talking about the surface of Mars. Like that everything's blended together. The pictures, they're doing an obfuscation. I'm not saying I know for sure. They believe the color is more of a brownish color on the when you're on the surface. Like there have been.
Daniel, I need you to understand that they are not sending these pictures from an iPhone in Ohio. Like it's coming from Mars, man.
I know.
Like there's a camera it's engineered to survive the atmosphere on Mars.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same.
That's right.
They have to do picture modifications to even interpret.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Dan, I don't really want to bog down to Mars. I'm not a scientist or anything, obviously. And but people think I believe in everything, and I had to tell people in comments that I don't believe in God. I don't believe in spirits. I don't believe in the flat Earth. I don't believe in the fake moon landing. I don't believe in the Mandela effect. I don't believe in a lot of stuff. But I've been following ufology for 40 years now, and 50 years, and I've come to the conclusion that they're just keeping it secret, that there's an alien reality behind it.
Well, my question, with all the, I'm sorry, Dan, the things that you just named that you don't believe in, how did you reach that conclusion? And what steps did you take to get there? Because it feels like those steps aren't being applied to this situation.
No, you're wrong. That they are being applied to this. I'm skeptical. I can't speak skeptical about a lot of things, but no, because I've been studying that. Been following the ufology for now like 40, 50 years. Ever since I've seen Whitley Strieber on Johnny Carson, to tell you the truth, is when it started for me. And you remember the book Communion? With the alien cover on it?
Yeah.
And, yeah, I've just been. Have you ever heard there are amazing stories throughout the history of it, like Roswell? I know we disagree on Roswell, Dan, but
yeah,
I think you got it wrong. I think you're falling for the lie.
Maybe so, but Dan, I'm sorry, we do have to wrap this call up because we got a lot of people that want to talk to us tonight. But let me leave it with this, okay?
Okay.
I'm sorry that you felt the need to defend yourself in the comment section for something that you honestly believe. I know what that's like. So I've been on the receiving end of that. Because if you know my story, I was a Christian and my video was up on YouTube, and there's a lot of people that called me dumb too. So I get that. And you shouldn't feel disrespected for your beliefs. But there is a discordance. There is a surprise that comes with a belief like yours, which it involves. You have to consider a lot of variables here that we are just concerned that maybe we haven't really thought all of them out with you yet. Maybe we haven't actually considered the other possibilities here. I understand you've been a UFOologist, or you've been following the UFO community for 40 years, but you also know, Daniel, that there are people who have been Christians their entire life, right? And that doesn't mean that they're true either, right? Yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you see as much as you have, and I'm sure you have. There's a lot of people. I'm sure you have questions that people have not given you satisfactory answers to, and we can work on that. But for now, we got to take this one step at a time. I don't expect you to change your beliefs overnight. But it will probably have to be an ongoing conversation. So with that, I'm going to let you go, Daniel. Thanks again for calling in. And thanks for being, I assume, a good sport about us having the Mars bugs in the background here. Because if I want to do anything with this show, I want to be able to champion respecting people and meeting people where they're at, unless they're fucking Nazis or something. I don't give a shit about them. But, we're not talking about Nazis here. We're talking about people who have genuine skepticism and genuine beliefs. Right. And I want to address that in the best way I can. So hopefully we do that. But for now, we really got to get going because we're getting close to the end of the show. And I want to talk to everybody. God, maybe we can go a little bit over today. The crew, you can let me know in the chat. But I'd love to do that because we got a lot of people that want to talk to us. For now, I have to let you guys know about some other ways you can support the show. Okay. One of them is through our brand new store. Okay. You can visit that. It's tiny.cc/merch ACA. To get some of your favorite items, the t-shirts, the hoodies, the coffee mugs, and check out our new items like our beanies, cell phones, and tote bags. And of course, we are featuring the limited edition item each month. Right now, it's that shirt that we got, and it's probably going to keep being shirts in the future. By the way, if you guys ever have shirt ideas, I'd be interested in knowing some of those too. Maybe we can get some inspiration from that, just personally. That'd be cool. But yeah. We'd love to get you guys some merch. So check that out. And if you ever buy merch, please tag me on Twitter. And I would just love to see you guys wearing some of that. One other thing I need to point out is that you can listen to an audio-only channel that we have for all of our podcasts. Go to tiny.cc/AEN podcasts for your one-stop shop to all of our shows in audio form, including Truth Wanted, as well as all the other shows. So check that out if you haven't already. And here's a big announcement, okay? I have been putting this out here for the past few weeks, but we are doing something special for Halloween, okay? Last Friday of the month, we are doing something kind of cool. We are doing a live in-person show at the Atheist Community of Austin studio, okay, in Austin. It's the first time Truth Wanted has done an in-person show since the pandemic. This is a big deal. You should plan on coming to that. And not only that, but we need your help still, because in order for us to do our special this year, we need to incorporate some of your scary stories. They don't have to be real stories, but we want some of fan-submitted scary stories. I'm not going to tell you how many we've had so far, but it's not a lot, to be honest. We need more, okay? And we're planning on closing this thing next week. So we need it like as soon as possible. Like Monday is what we're going to be starting this off. So the link to submit your story is in the subscription in the description. So if you want to help us out and you want your scary story possibly read, please go submit your stories. Link to that is on screen, tiny.cc/TW stories. And we want to hear from you. It's going to be part of a bit. I'm not going to spoil it, okay? Like, you know, we always do cool stuff for Halloween. So please help us out. We want to make this fun. But anyway, we have more people that want to talk to us. And gosh, super cool conversation topics. I really want to talk to everybody, but we got to move. We got to move, man. We got Rebel calling in from Virginia. Rebel, you are on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys?
How's it going, Rebel? What do you got for us?
I'm not sure if you can read the topic I typed in or not, but I told you a little.
Well, our call screener does write out a description for us. If you'd like, I can read it. It says, astronauts are paid liars to hide the God of the Bible in heaven above us. Atheists are the poor victims of sci-fi space propaganda. Quote, NASA is set up to deceive the whole world.
Amen. That's true.
Okay. All right. Our call screeners doing their job then. That's good. So that's a lot, Rebel. Where do we start? Where do we start with that?
It's quite a bit.
I mean, what do you want us to do with that information? So astronauts are paid liars to hide the God of the Bible.
Yes, they are, because when you look at NASA's budget, which you guys would argue is to do whatever they want to do with space, missions and stuff like that. I would just say a lot of it is used for not only very nefarious agendas with has to do with occult secret society stuff, even as bad as child trafficking, but we don't have to get into that. But it has to do with paying off the astronauts to lie to the whole world. Yeah.
Okay, how do you know this to be true, right? Because obviously that's against what most people believe about NASA. So what source of information are you referencing that makes you very obviously confident in your worldview?
I mean, of a very wide variety of resources are researched thoroughly for the past.
What's your best?
Years.
Give me your best one, because I'm assuming you don't work at NASA, right? I'm assuming you don't you aren't on the inside of this, so you're having to reference other people, right? So just tell me one.
Well, instead of just doing a he said, she said kind of thing, first I would just stick to the science and my own empirical scientific observations of the Earth that we live on, and everything that I can see and that I can observe for myself is that we live on a level stationary plane, and that there's a bunch of evidence of a quote flat Earth. I like to use the term biblical cosmology, because the Bible does describe a flat Earth enclosed in a dome called the firmament. But besides all the evidence we can get into, the one that does it for me is the fact that bodies of water always find their level at the surface. And speaking about this is very relevant, because the majority of the surface of the Earth happens to be water. So how can you get over 70% of bodies of water, flat bodies of water, to make a ball on itself? You just can't do it. It's impossible.
I wasn't asking about whether the Earth was flat. I wanted to know how you know that astronauts are paid to lie. Well,
that's a logical conclusion you can come up with right after that, right? Because if you can conclude that the Earth indeed is flat and that we're enclosed in a dome, and that nobody can leave this solid dome above us to get into this alleged concept of infinite, ever-expanding space, as soon as you figure that out, then you can logically almost automatically conclude that, okay, then astronauts claiming to go into space must be lying, and they're most likely they're not doing it for free, right? They must be getting paid a lot of money to do it.
Okay, so this is a logical conclusion you've come to based on the premise that the Earth is flat. So you're saying, premise one, the Earth is flat, therefore, well, actually, premise one, the Earth is flat. Premise two, astronauts say that the Earth isn't flat. So premise three is astronauts are paid to lie. Yeah. Like is that the argument that I'm hearing here? I'm correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you've got the right idea, but I want to say the bigger picture, actually, besides the shape of the Earth being flat, is the fact that this concept of a ever expanding, never ending, infinite vacuum of outer space doesn't exist at all. It's nothing but sci-fi. It's just Hollywood. It's Star Wars and Star Trek. The only thing that has been to space is your own imagination. So any astronaut, I don't care what they say about the Earth, any astronaut that has claimed to have left the atmosphere of the Earth and gone into outer space, like the ISS or the moon or wherever, they're all charlatans. They're bold-faced liars.
Okay, so
they're deceivers. Actually, they're actually free. Actually, one thing. Sorry, Dan.
Well, let me tell you this, because we do have, this show focuses on what people believe and why, but the broad variety of the claims you make it beyond what I could talk to you in like 10 minutes. So I'm choosing to focus on one specific topic, if that makes sense. And this isn't to disregard your other beliefs or say that aren't even worth talking about. I think they are, incredibly so. But we have to stick to one topic at a time, because otherwise we don't get anything done, right? So I want to go back. Let's go back to this astronaut thing, right? So you believe that astronauts are bold-faced liars, and that they are getting paid to lie. And you're saying that you believe this because the Earth is flat, so therefore they have to be lying. Okay, that's one way to think about this. But like, how do you know that they are lying? And how do you know that they're being paid to lie? Because to me, that connection isn't necessarily there. Maybe the astronauts are also being fooled about their own space trips. Maybe there's, there could be other possibilities here too, right? So like,
so many tracks that can go there.
So like, what made you come to this specific conclusion?
I mean, look, obviously I haven't like gone into their bank account and seen paychecks coming from NASA, right? Like, but I would just think it's very simply reasonable that, they wouldn't be doing their job to deceive the world for free. I think part of the reason why they're okay with lying to the whole world to their face is because they're getting paid a pretty penny for it. And when you look at NASA's budget of $23 billion with a B dollars a year, a lot of it comes from our taxes, which amounts to be $60 million every single day, then, I could easily see why they are getting paid for it. And one more thing, Dan.
Okay, Rebel, hold on. So did you catch Dan's question though? Because I think what he was saying makes a lot of sense. Like, how do you know that they're lying? Because it could be just as likely that they're actually being fooled like the rest of us, right?
Yeah, or another myriad of possibilities.
What do you mean? Like, the only way they could be, the only possibility in my head right now that I can think of how they could possibly be fooled, like as if like us, the general public, and them as the astronauts are in some sort of like wicked double-blind experiment where neither of us know what's going on. It's like if they're getting like drugged or hypnotized before they're coming on these press conferences talking about what they're doing. That's the only way. Otherwise,
there's another possibility. Here's another one. They could be telling the truth.
That's possible.
I mean, here's the thing, Rebel, right? Rebel, here's the thing. It's not just astronauts that know about space, right? NASA is made up of a lot of people, and a lot of people with very technical knowledge on how space works so that they can get there. And guess what? It's not just people at NASA. NASA outsources a lot of their work. The work that's done at NASA isn't just all paid for by employees of the U.S. government. It's contractors. they have to hire roboticists sometimes. They have to get people who can help them get specific materials that'll survive space. There's a lot of people, even just outside of NASA, that are making
private companies that have no connections to government at all.
Yeah, like it wouldn't have to just be NASA. It would have to be SpaceX. It would have to be the companies that get materials to these people. I mean, like there's all kinds of organizations that are involved here. So I find this premise, right, that it has to be astronauts flying. It's beyond that, isn't it? Wouldn't it have to be that every single person that's ever worked in the space industry has to be deceived or lying on some level?
Deceived, yes. Lying, no. Because this conspiracy, which I believe Satan is at the very top of it, symbolized by that eye, that eye at the top of that pyramid on the back of your dollar bill, the eye of Providence or Lucifer, as they say. It's very compartmentalized of a conspiracy. It's very clever. That's actually what the triangle represents. Satan is the one at the top that knows it all, and then as you go down the different compartments, everyone's on a need-to-know basis, or just like the military works. So yes, I agree. There are engineers, there's astrophysicists, there's college professors, there's electricians. Yeah, they all do these tasks that are given by NASA and SpaceX and all these other industries as like contract workers, and they're innocent. I'm not saying they're in on it. They're just simply doing their job, thinking what they're doing is benefiting space travel, but in reality, they're just getting a paycheck. But they're innocent, unlike astronauts.
Interesting.
Okay.
And this is because the Earth is flat, like allegedly because the Earth is flat. Or that the universe doesn't actually exist. Sorry, you did clarify on that point. That space outside of what we immediately see. I don't know where that ends. Actually, can I ask you about that? What is that? You said space doesn't exist? Like at all?
That's correct, sir. That's correct.
Okay. So that's kind of interesting. Can I talk to you about that then? What does that mean when I like look up at night at the stars and stuff? What am I actually looking at?
Yeah, so that's all real. Like some people will strawman me and say, "Oh yeah, like the Vatican must be, projecting like lights onto the sky." No, that's just a foolish strawman. So what you're seeing up there is real, but what is not are these big balls of gas, trillions of light years away, and the sun being 93 million miles away and whatever. That's not what it is. Actually, it's just simply luminaries shining from heaven, where God is sitting in his throne.
And they're made of oxygen and like xenon or not xenon, but other chemical elements that we've been able to determine that compose stars, or is that also not true? Yeah, like is that just part of the lie?
I don't know. I don't believe anyone can have the knowledge of what the heavenly luminaries are made out of. My best educated guess is that the sun and moon are some sort of electromagnetic powers, and that's how they're shining. And then the stars specifically shine by a phenomenon known as sonoluminescence, which means it's the type of light that's made when you put out sound frequencies in water. Because I believe above the dome is actually just a huge heavenly ocean.
Did you know? Are you familiar with the science of spectroscopy?
Yes.
Okay. So with spectroscopy, right, we can look at the sun, and actually based on the way that it shines, believe it or not, we can actually determine its chemical elements. Did you know this? That's how we know exactly what the sun is made of, and not only exactly what it's made of, how much of each part of its chemical elements are made of. And based on this science that, again, not just NASA people are doing, but private universities and public ones that have access to radioscopic telescopes and stuff, right, that can view stars, are doing this to other stars, and not just stars, but other bodies of elements in space. And
anything
that's how we're able to
light.
Yeah, and it reflects light. That's how we're able to determine the chemical composition of stuff out there, like in space. Like, do you know that that's happening? Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have. I'm not, I don't find it to be credible, because I believe that there's water above the dome, and if the spectroscopy is not picking up water, then it falls flat on its face.
So I'm curious, what is the source of this information if you don't find the experiments that we can observe with our own eyes? If that's not credible, what source does this information come from that makes it so credible to you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a plane and I've never been through water, so I don't know where that line starts.
Nobody can. Dan, I said above the dome. Nobody can get above the dome. Remember?
He did say above the dome, Dan.
I guess I thought I was above the dome, or at least near the top, but I guess I haven't been. So, or anybody that's ever
the apex
flown in a rocket.
The apex of the dome, I believe, to be about 386,000 feet up. Of course, it would, start to go down as the further you go towards the edge of the flat Earth, which would be a gigantic 360 ice wall. They tell us is the South Pole, Antarctica, but actually it's a gigantic 360 ice wall that's being used as a container to keep in all the ocean water. Because of course, the outside surface of a globe is not a container for water to be kept in. You can cry out gravity all you want, but gravity doesn't make sense either.
What is gravity?
Can I ask him a question?
Sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions. Go ahead, Charles.
No, you're good. I think it's a question that's on the mind of everybody watching right now. Why? What is the reason for this conspiracy? What is there to gain by keeping this a secret?
Dan read it in my topic if he still has it available to him. It's in the very first sentence. I said,
you think that they can keep the secret that God exists, but God being all powerful and wanting a relationship with us should circumvent that, right?
Right. I've always believed in God since a little child. Like, I can't remember when I never did not believe in him, right? So, and I was taught just like everyone, just like you guys and everyone here in the chat, that the Earth is a globe and the heliocentric model. I had astronomy class all throughout school, and even went to the planetarium, stuff like that. That never took away from my belief in God. But what I mean by NASA hiding God is the proximity of his position relative to us. Like, he's much closer than we think. He's literally in heaven above us in his throne. Like, when they give this idea of this infinite vacuum of outer space, even for people who believe in God, like devout Christians or Muslims or whatever, they completely take away the concept of God being close to us in heaven.
Okay.
Like these theists have no idea where heaven is, and it's a damn shame.
Okay, Rebel. If let's say I go to the University of Hawaii, because they have a telescope out in Hawaii, right? It's a telescope that you can go visit. You don't actually get to see the telescope yourself because they're constantly using it. Like, you can apply to be able to use a telescope. It'll take like months, sometimes years, to be able to use a lot of these if you have a particular project you want to work on. Again, not affiliated with NASA, but you go to this telescope that's looking at space by these private universities, or sometimes this is a public university, but sometimes private universities, I believe, have these. Like, what are they doing? Like, if you're an astronomy major, Rep, and you have the opportunity, which I'm assuming happens to astronomy majors who talk about their experiences, they go to these telescopes and they study with this data for a couple weeks. Like, what are they doing? Are they just sitting on their asses? Are they just not working? Like, what's happening? Why are they telling us that they're publishing these research papers with lots of facts and figures every single day? Are they just sitting there making all these numbers up? Like, what is actually happening? Because, like, ostensibly you can do this too, right? Like, if you go to this university and you apply for an internship there or apply to work on a project, like, you can have access to it. So that's not being hidden, right? Like, if they're letting just students go in. So, like, what's happening?
I mean, I'm not sure what else you can get besides looking through a telescope other than getting an up close look at the luminaries, which, by the way, if you actually get a chance to do that, they look absolutely nothing like the computer generated images that NASA.
Yeah, that's because they do more than just look at stuff, man. They're taking other kinds of data besides visual information.
Like what, bro?
Like what?
Like the elements that we were just talking about.
Right. Well,
that's one experiment.
It's first of all, it's
looking at it.
You're thinking of the visible spectrum. Telescopes at these universities look at more than just what's within the visible spectrum, right? They're looking through. You're aware of the vision spectrum, right? It's how we get like X-rays and stuff like that. They're looking at all of them and able to determine data. They're not just like putting a big glass and then doing that, right?
Right, but unless, but the thing is, like, unless they can personally verify themselves that what they're looking at is like they're presupposing is a vacuum of space, then they're kind of just basing it off their data off of presupposition that space is real.
See, this is what I'm getting at. This is where I'm getting lost, because it seems like you're doing a lot of presupposing, because we can give you all of these experiments and elements and all these things that how do we know what we know? We can give you all these things. Yeah. How do you know that the firmament is there? How do you know there's an ocean on the other side of it? How do you know that God in this firmament above ocean? I don't even know what we're hinting at anymore. Where are you getting this information, and why are you so sure of it?
Well, there's more than one firmament. I believe there to be 7, and part of the reason why God is called the Most High is because that's a directional term of his position being the Most High above it all, on this on top of the 7th dome or 7th firmament, right? But I've seen multiple amateur scientists or even professional ones, like from a college, send a rocket up straight up into the air, and it reaches like crazy Mach 3.5 speeds or whatever, and it just stops on a dime when it should have gone to outer space. And you guys can look up SpaceX rocket launches where they sort of go at a parabolic angle, and they'll start to make this crazy phenomenon in the sky, which to me and many others, there's no other explanation for it other than the rocket and the stages of it like ricocheting off the firmament of the Earth. And
I feel like you would have evidence of damage if that was the case.
Do you have independent evidence of any of the things that Jerome just said? Because what you're saying is, look at this stuff. The best way to explain is this other thing. Okay, what you're saying is, here is a possible explanation for these events based on what other people have observed. Is there anybody that has independent observations? In other words, is there somebody from a university or somebody who's actually looking at space, maybe yourself and other people in your community, that can actually confirm and say, look, we know that the composition of the firmament is water based on this? I mean, like, what I'm hearing is kind of what I heard with Daniel, is that we're instead looking at what other people have put out there and giving alternative hypotheses for what they're looking at. There's nothing independent going on here. It's just, well, here's what this video does, but they're doing X, Y, and Z, right?
Well, I never. Well, just to clarify, I didn't claim the firmament is actually made out of water. I said water is above it. I'm not sure what the firmament is made out of. When you look into the lexicon definition in the Bible, it describes that.
I don't know how you know that.
I need you to explain to me how you know these things. Because if you're trying to convince somebody of something, you can't just say this is it. Good luck with that. I need you to actually tell me why I should believe it. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Put it in a way that would make me believe it. Because right now I'm not seeing it.
If you saw the evidence yourself, like it's probably going to be hard to convince you guys just over a simple phone call like this. Like,
listen, I think,
to be honest, I wouldn't be convinced either.
Rebel, I think I could convince you that space exists in a single phone call. I think that's possible for me to do. Yeah. Honestly, I really do. So I think if I can do that, I think you should be able to prove to me that the firmament exists over a phone call. I think you can do that. Like, I honestly do. And I get it. There is limitations with this format of talking with people. But look, if you're going to go out there, you got to bring your A game, my man. Like, we can't just talk about, oh, well, I think this video does this and these people do this. Like, look, again, I don't know. I guess the answer to my previous question was all these people that are applying for research opportunities at universities and other places to look at these telescopes and look at tools that examine space. I guess they're all just full of it. Also, I don't know how satellite TV works, but regardless, we're really out of time with this one, Rebel. I think I am interested in conversing with you because you have some very interesting ideas, but I want you to bring your A game with us next time, right? And not just like, oh, I want you to go. I mean, if you want to send me videos or something in the email, you can do that. But like, I think if I'm able to convince most people that space exists or other bodies of elements in space exist through a phone call, I think you could do the same for the opposite. I don't know. I think it's possible, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's too complicated. Point is, whatever you want to do with it, we could do that. But we are out of time here, Rebel. I hope you do call in a different time, and we can go from there. But gosh, what a call! What a call, huh?
Yeah, a lot of claims.
There's a lot of things. A lot of things. I think the problem is, again, you ask questions, right? Like you ask questions, I ask questions, and then it goes on to another thing.
Like, no, you didn't answer the thing I asked. Like,
I haven't learned anything.
What kills me when we have these conversations with Christians, especially, is they start making all these inferences, and it's like, is that in the Bible?
Yeah.
Like, where are you getting this from?
There has to be a method where you go from point A to point B. Instead, we're talking about B. We're talking about C. We're talking about D. We have to start with point A. We really got to start with the principles here. But hey, Rebel, I want to give you the opportunity. If you call again, I will talk to you again. I will talk to you again because I want to believe in the ice wall, baby. I want to go see the ice wall. Book me a first class trip to the ice wall. I'll pay whatever I got. I want to see it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. Just come with some form of evidence. Not just claims. Got to come with some evidence, brother.
Where the fuck did we get our penguins and
bring me the ice? Bring me a bag of water and say this was ice before, and it's from the wall. Like I would, that's something. Wall. That's something.
That'd be cool though. If somebody, I don't know, that wouldn't be cool.
I would sell it.
If somebody came up to me and said, "Here's a chip from the ice wall," I would probably walk away.
I'm not gonna hold you. I would sell it on eBay. I would do it.
You'd sell that?
Just a bag of water. Hey, folks, don't nobody take my hustle. Don't nobody take my hustle out there.
We had several interesting other topics today. Thank you guys so much for calling in. I'm sorry I didn't get to you, but we're already over time here. I do appreciate everybody that calls into the show. And I want to give a thanks to you, Jerome, for being on the show and joining us. Where can people find you at if they want to see more of you?
You can find me at Blatant Blatheist on pretty much any platform. Like I'm everywhere. I didn't even put the TikTok on there. Yeah, I'm everywhere. Just search Blatant Blatheist. I'll pop up.
Cool. And of course, if you want to find me or email me whatever evidence you have for the ice wall or flat earth or bugs on Mars, you can do it at truth@atheist-community.org. Please don't put it in the comment sections of the video. I don't think you're even supposed to do that on YouTube anyway. But look, that's the place where you can contact me. You can also reach out to the ACA at tv@atheist-community.org and see what's going on our website at atheist-community.org. Also, there is a Facebook group. You can post stuff on there, but it's run by fans for fans. So please follow the rules of whatever those groups have set up. If you want to go to the Truth Wanted one, you can do that by going to tiny.cc/FBTWG to interact with other fans about, space and how it's not real. Or whatever your heart fancies, I suppose. And also, you should definitely give thanks, as I am about to the wonderful, fantastic, amazing, spectacular crew that helps make this show happen every single week. Look at that crew. Shout outs to Mark for making the background for this episode. It's great. It's amazing. I love it. And I won't apologize for it because it's cool. Anyway,
it really is.
We usually, and I haven't done this like the last 2 times, but like I like to ask my co-hosts for some words of wisdom before we close out our program. And so, Jerome, do you have any words of wisdom before we end tonight's show?
Words of wisdom. I would say this is going to be cliche as hell, but stay skeptical. Those are my words of wisdom. Yeah.
Stay skeptical. I like that.
Yep.
I like that. Thank you, Blatant Blatheist. Thanks again to the crew. And thanks to everybody watching this program. You guys are the best. Remember to always keep wanting the truth. I'm Objectively Dan. and I'll see you next time.
Watch The Non-Prophets and join the hosts in the live chat, Sundays at 3 p.m. Central, between The Atheist Experience and Talk Hidden. Visit tiny.cc/ytnp.